Okay, my take on this stuff. Now, I have those detractors that say that I spit in the face of the Holy Spirit and I spit in the Bible and I say it's all untrue and yada, 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 yada. Okay? Which is their projection. Okay? But yeah, no, I definitely don't say whatever holy is there, that it's evil. That's what rejection of the Holy Spirit is, saying that those things that are of the light are dark. Oh, Mr. Max hit a little head. Oh, poor little man. He come over and tried to jump up and he hit his head. Oh, ow, I heard that. Yeah, owie, Mr. Max. He's a good boy. Okay, you're okay. So anyway, my view is, like I put up the thing about the Old Testament today, and if you actually sit and read it, and the things that are in this description, that's only a minutia of what's there. Does that mean that I'm a hater of the Bible? Absolutely not. Now, what Christ was saying and Christ was teaching is 180 degrees away from the Old Testament, okay? And the God that I know is not a jealous, vengeful, hateful God, okay? If you've ever experienced it, okay, if you've ever experienced God, you'll find out that it is just absolutely loving, giving, okay, perfection. But you read the Old Testament, it is violent, wrathful, hateful, justifies, theft justifies, killing justifies, all of that. That's, I'm sorry, but that's not the God I know. That's not the God that Christ was talking about, okay? What Christ was talking about was against love, there is no law, okay? It's not justifying hate, death, laughing, as you're ripping open pregnant women and babies and killing them and justifying it and saying, well, God told me, our prophets told us to do this, so it's okay because God said, God speaks from all of our prophets, okay? No. Those weren't prophets. Those weren't speaking words from God. Those were speaking words of vilification to justify their actions, okay? Really, that's kind of coming from the other side, okay? Hate, ego, vilification, okay? God created all of mankind. And if you read the Old Testament, basically the only ones he created was the Jewish population, because everybody else was banned and you can destroy them, go ahead, kill them all. The only ones worth of any value are Jewish. No, God created all of mankind. And to say there's only one religious way to get to God, really, is God so, God doesn't give you other options, doesn't put anything else out, okay? It is so skewed, so, again, divisionary, justifying all these negativities. It justifies abuse of women, it justifies slavery, it justifies polygamy, it justifies killing. It justifies sacrifice, human sacrifice. It justifies, all of these things. If you've done something bad, you can kill an animal instead and get off the hook. We've got loopholes for you, okay? Well, that's not the God I know, okay? And I don't think that that's the God that Christ would be teaching, okay? He came to bring light, to get rid of this fallacy. And like I said, what do you see? You see these old, the evangelicals say in the Old Testament. I'm like, do you not have eyes to see? Do you not have ears to hear? Can you not see what's there? Read the whole of it. Don't cherry pick one little thing out of there. And then what doesn't suit you, you throw it out. Well, we just ignore that part, okay? We're just going to cherry pick this thing. Hate homosexuals. We'll cherry pick that out of there, okay? We're not going to talk about adultery, though, and stuff. We're not going to talk about that, okay? No, doesn't serve our purpose. We talk about being a hater of other religious persuasions, okay? We talk about fear. We talk about dread. We talk about, be fearful, be fearful. Fear the Lord, and what did Christ say? Fear not. They're saying be in fear. He's saying don't be in fear. So which is it? Which is it? I'm sorry, but I think that Christ was speaking of the light, where the Old Testament was all about hate, division, okay? Justifying war, justifying hate, justifying finding loopholes, okay? Putting down women, being a hater on so many avenues and justifying it at every turn. We are the powerful. We are the chosen. We are, And is that really what you want to believe, that God is a hater? God justifies killing babies, ripping open pregnant women, and sitting there laughing about it. God justifies that. That's the God you worship? Okay. So yeah, I may get flack and I don't care. Because what has been experienced here, what I know to be true, with the dismantling of ego, that process, and the only thing that was there was that divine is. And that divine is has nothing like the Old Testament wants to say, vengeful, wrathful, okay? Revenge, hate, division, okay? Nothing like that. Okay? It was what Christ was speaking of. Fear not. Okay? Fear not. Against love there is no law. Talked about don't be a hater. Okay? Don't bear false witness. Don't lie. Don't sit there and say, well, it's justified because I didn't like what was being said, or I didn't like this, or I didn't like that. So I can go after them and say, I'm a good Christian. No, that's not being a good Christian. That's not a follower of Christ. They're a follower of the Old Testament. Okay? And again, they like to cherry pick things out to try to condemn people and talk about, don't be a hater, don't be, it's not your place to judge, yet they're the most judgmental people on the face of the planet. Judge, jury, and condemnation. And then the next second, out of the other side of their mouth, they're saying, don't judge. It's not your place to judge. It's God's place to judge. And then the next second, now the other side of their mouth, and that demon and that, you're condemned, you're going to hell, Well, which is it? You can't have it two ways. That's being double-minded, okay? So, yeah, that's kind of my take and view on it. If you want to be in what's said in there, God judges the hearts and the minds. This is what it says. God judges the hearts and the minds. In the Old Testament, you're judged by the letter of the law. Christ came to talk about the spirit of the law. Old Testament is the letter of the law. So if you have these, these so-called prophets and preachers and stuff that stay in the Old Testament, then that's the judgment. They're going to be judged by what they judge by. They want to judge others by the Old Testament standard, then that's the judgment they're going to get. Okay? If you want to let go of this judgment and be under the spirit of the law, what Christ was speaking about, then there is no judgment if you are in love, if you are in light, if you are following the things of spirit. What spirit are you following? Is it hate, revenge, judgment, condemnation, or is it the spirit of love? Is it the spirit of peace? Is it the spirit of light? If it's the spirit of wanting to see mankind come together, because all are created by the same God. Okay? And if you want to set your part as separate and distinct and sit there and justify hatred, justify killing, justify all these things, and that's what you're holding to, good luck with that. That's all I can say. Good luck with that. Because, like I said, the God I know that has been experienced directly, that I know 100% to be true, was a God of love, a God of light. It wasn't condemnation, hatred, vilification, revenge. That's creating God in man's image. Okay? Wanting to be revengeful, hateful, jealous. Okay? What do they say in the Old Testament? My God's a jealous God. My God's not a jealous God. Okay? The God of Jesus, of Christ, was not a jealous God. That's the Old Testament. That's the God that men have made in their image to justify their bad actions, to justify whatever dogmas and things they want to put out to try to constrain people. Okay? Those that have had near-death experience, what do they come back and say? If they haven't been haters. Now, if they've been haters, they've had a very different experience, okay? But those that have not been haters have come back and said, God is a loving God. It is so embracing. The love is beyond what you can imagine. So why do we have all these preachers out there living in the Old Testament. And you have people that say that I'm rejecting of Christ, rejecting of the... I embrace what Christ was teaching. Okay? The rejectors of Christ are those that stay in the Old Testament and are preaching a different Jesus, and that's what it says in the end times. You're going to have ones that are preaching a different Jesus. And that's what it is. If you're staying in the Old Testament, then you're not accepting Christ. Okay? You're rejecting of Christ. And that's the truth of it. Okay? So for those that want to be in all this vilification and hate, they might want to look and see where they're coming from. Because they're not following Christ. Okay? You can't sit there and embrace the Old Testament and embrace Christ at the same time. Now in the description I put in the other one, that's just infinitesimal part of what's there. And if you're going to embrace the Old Testament, then you have to embrace all of it or reject it. Okay. So you can look those things up for yourself. See if that's the truth or a lie. And there's so much more there than what is said. So I said, those that want to be religious and hold to that, good luck with that. But I prefer to go towards the Spirit of what Christ came to teach, what Christ came to give, what Christ came to free people from. Now, if they want to stay in that bondage, in that haterville, and justify their hate and their actions and their drama, good luck with that. I leave God to judge whatever they're doing, okay? But I'm going to hold to the light and the things that Christ was espousing of life, liberty, love, okay? The things that he said that God was the giver of. The giver of blessings, the giver of light. And all the Old Testament talks about is condemnation. Okay. So I'm going to leave this here. Love and light. See you online.